Okay. Hello.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Good to see you again. Welcome back here to Fiske Planetarium's Dome to Home Summer Series. We are excited to be here and to have you with us. So we'll give people a moment to hop on and refresh the page if they need. But while we're waiting, my name is Rémy. I am a student at CU Boulder and usually a presenter at Fiske Planetarium. And below me, we have...
Hello, my name is Amanda. I'm also a student at Fiske Planetarium, here to navigate for you guys, and I'm really excited to share some of Mars information today. It's going to be a good time.
Absolutely. So everything you see here on our dome right there, that's courtesy of Amanda, who's flying us around and pulling up all the pictures live. And if you are watching live, feel free to hop on the chat. They're below me, to the side of me. And if you have any questions, just send them right there. And our question master, Tara, who's there moderating the chat, will pass it off to us and we'll be able to answer it live in the video. And if you are watching after the fact, feel free to leave a comment. So let's see, should we get started?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. So today we will be talking about the upcoming Mars 2020 mission, slated to launch on July 30th or potentially early August. We figured people would want to be caught up to speed on it, considering it's coming so soon, and we're counting down the days to launch. So first off, in case you haven't heard about Mars 2020, that's NASA's next upcoming mission to, you guessed it, Mars. So here's the rover that we're going to be planning on sending up with it. It's called Perseverance. So Mars has captured our curiosity for as long as we've been looking up. And considering we've been limited to Earth for so long, the concept of other worlds has long been fascinating. So naturally, when travel to some of these other worlds became even vaguely plausible, humanity began planning. So the first successful mission to Mars was Mariner 4. And that was launched by NASA way back in 1964. And it only flew by the planet and it snapped the first up-close photos of our neighbor. There's Mariner 4. Since then, we've had some much closer encounters with the planet in the form of landers and most notably rovers, such as we've got
looks like these ones are kind of missing out, but you can see the names of them up there at the end. There we go.
There we go.
Curiosity wants to show himself for you today.
There we go. We got Curiosities here. I promise there are others. We've got Spirit, Opportunity, and Curiosity are three of the main ones that NASA has sent up. We've sent actually a lot of rovers and landers to Mars, but the more we send, the more ground that we can cover, and the better that we can understand the planet. So some people wonder, why do we keep going back to Mars and sending more and more and more rovers? We've been there, seen that, whatever. But imagine you're trying to understand the entire Earth, and you've landed a rover in New York, Tokyo, and Sydney, some big cities. So you get a little bit of variation, but you're going to miss out on other very different places like the Sahara or Antarctica or the entire ocean. So that's why we like to send as many missions as we can to a place when we want to understand a location or a planet, and as many instruments as we can pack on each mission, because we'll be able to understand Mars better the more terrain we cover of Mars. So today's focus is the next Mars mission, Mars 2020, with the new rover Perseverance. Oh, there it is. So the rover is already attached to the rocket and ready to go within the next few weeks. So we're getting really, really close, but we'll take some time to get to Mars. Even though it's launching, the end of the month or early August, it won't get there until February 18th, 2021. It is a long way to Mars. So the chosen landing site, which you can see right here, is an area called Jezero Crater. So Jezero was chosen from a list of potential sites for a number of reasons. First off, it's flat. That makes it really nice to land, large, smooth, flat. That's incredible news for landing a spacecraft. You're not going to land anything on a mountain or anywhere bumpy. So secondly, Jezero Crater is also the site of an ancient lake within a river delta. So we see lots of evidence for past water on Mars in the shapes of rocks and in the form of canyons carved by past rivers, as you can see on here. So looking at things like this, they look like rivers were there, right? There's really no other way to get these sort of features. So you can see a couple of river deltas. So 𝐀𝐜𝐭𝐢𝐯 crater itself is here. It's at the top. There it is. And you can see the river delta there, and you can see the crater that became a lake. So rivers deposit sediment in deltas, which makes 𝐀𝐜𝐭𝐢𝐯 crater a really great candidate for evidence of life or anything that might have been upstream. Because anything upstream comes in and gets deposited in that river delta, so that's an incredible place to put something that might be looking for life. So finding that evidence is one of Perseverance's primary goals, to seek out biosignatures, meaning signs of life or more likely past life on Mars. So the rover is outfitted, I can talk, with lots of equipment to do this and many other jobs.
And just in case you guys were wondering, this is a false color image.
Yes.
It's not an actual beautiful picture of Mars Delta like that. It would be super cool to see pictures like that. But this is just some false color, probably to tell us some more information about the area, maybe like the elevation or some density or something like that. So this isn't real color, but it definitely is telling us some information.
Yeah, Mars isn't gray and green. So that's one thing you have to look out for sometimes in astronomy photos. We like to use false color images so that it can tell us different information from just what color something is. But yeah, as you can see, the Mars 2020 rover has a lot of equipment on it from a number of different countries, and it will be looking into a lot of things, like looking for those biosignatures, investigating rocks and geology, and even using sensors to see what the atmospheric and environmental conditions are like. So, like I said, it's not just biosignatures, it's also actually going to be storing rock samples, like drilling them. So it's really similar to Curiosity, both in design and goals. But one of its newer instruments is this really fancy core driller. So this rover is going to be drilling into the rocks, collecting a sample, and then storing it in a nice little container for people to pick up and bring back to Earth to study in a laboratory later. And I'm really excited about this in particular because it does show a commitment and a belief that humans will make it to Mars sometime in the near future. We're hoping the 2030s, that's our goal. We'll see how that goes, but it really does show that we're hoping to get there. You don't leave something for your future self if you're not planning on picking it up. So it's really incredible to see that level of confidence in a crewed mission to Mars.
Yeah, and if you guys are excited about astronomy and maybe one day you want to be an astronaut, maybe you guys will be the ones who can go pick up some of these samples that rovers are collecting. So it's always a good goal to know that nobody's touched these samples yet, and they probably won't for a long time. And if you're smart and you work hard, maybe one day you could be collecting samples on Mars. We're definitely trying to get people over there. So maybe you'll be one of those people. It's really cool thought.
Let us know if you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, preparing for human visitation is one of its primary goals. So in addition to exploring that geology and past habitability, Mars 2020 will be looking into how exactly that human exploration may and will be possible. So one particularly interesting piece of equipment to do that is called MOXIE, or the Mars Oxygen ISRU experiment. Sometimes astronomy acronyms are a little bit of a stretch. But its job is to create oxygen from the primarily carbon dioxide Martian atmosphere. So what we need to breathe is oxygen. But when something's only carbon dioxide, and especially with how sparse it is, the atmosphere is about 1% that of Earth, and it's all something that we don't breathe. So to live on Mars, go to Mars, we want something that can create oxygen. And so that's what MOXIE is there for. It wants to create oxygen, both for life support and for rocket fuel. So we look forward to its success because, we want to be able to breathe on Mars and we want to be able to return to Earth. And the less astronauts have to carry with them, the better. So there are a number of other instruments on the rover that will take measurements, like I said, of soil, rocks, environmental conditions, and really try to piece together a really good characterization of this area on Mars. So in addition to those scientific instruments and sensors, Perseverance will be equipped with 23 cameras in total and a couple of microphones. And I really love this, a little drone. So Perseverance is taking along with it a small helicopter. There it is. It's about 4 feet tall, and its name is Ingenuity, and its goal really is just to fly. So like I said, Martian atmosphere, 1% the density of Earth. That means powered flight is really tough. So machines like planes and helicopters, they depend on the existence of air to create lift around wings or blades. So while the pictures Ingenuity takes, they're going to be really exciting to get. This first demonstration of powered flight like this, I think it's adorable, is going to be even more exciting if you ask around. So there is quite a lot to look forward to with Mars 2020, really learning more about the environment of Mars, to collect samples, to test flight and see how humans are going to actually go to Mars. But if you can't wait to watch the launch of Mars 2020, I've got some great news for you. There are 2 other missions to Mars coming up this week and the next. So this Thursday should show the launch of the Emirates Mars mission, which will launch the United Arab Emirates HOPE satellite, which will be studying Mars's atmosphere. There it is. And then on the 23rd, China will be launching the Tianwen with both an orbiter and a rover to study the surface and atmosphere of Mars. So keep an eye on both of those to gear up for Mars 2020.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And they usually post videos of these launches too. So like Rémy said, if you're excited for these missions happening, you'll be able to watch like a launch on YouTube or something like that, and you'll get to kind of be a part of the experience. And then when it shows up at Mars in February, you'll say, I remember watching that. And it might just make the connection a little stronger for you. These are super cool missions, and there's a lot of cooperation and teamwork all around the world. And so it's really exciting that these missions are happening. We're prepping for humans. We're doing a lot of really cool science, and it's nice to know that some cool stuff is going on with Mars right now.
It's really exciting to really be able to live in an era where we're exploring these planets like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason, by the way, that we have the HOPE satellite and Tianwen and Mars 2020 all within a few weeks of each other is that this is a really great time to be launching to Mars. So like I said, Mars is pretty far away, and Mars and Earth aren't always near each other. They orbit around the sun at different speeds, which means sometimes Mars is much further away than it is at other times. So we're timing these so that it can take the shortest and easiest path to Mars, which is why we really have this few weeks window that we're sending all of these out at once. So we've got a quick question from Denise, who wanted to know, is there an approximate date for a manned landing on Mars? So we are shooting for the 2030s. We're going to see how that goes. Sometimes we aim for years and we don't hit them. You know, the James Webb Space Telescope comes to mind. And sometimes we aim for a time frame and actually get there, like the moon landing. So we're going to see exactly what happens, but we're really crossing our fingers for the 2030s to get us to Mars. We got to make it back to the moon first, though. That should be in the next few years. There are a lot of particulars you have to be aware of when trying to go so far away as Mars, because you don't want to get close to Mars and find out that you're missing a lot of stuff or something doesn't work, or you land on Mars and you find out, oh no, we can't make oxygen from the atmosphere, which is why Mars 2020 has that MOXIE instrument. So you have to do a lot of careful planning if you want to go this far. But it should be really
absolutely
exciting.
And getting onto the moon is a good way to kind of practice living somewhere other than the Earth before going super far to Mars. But we definitely want to get there.
So we are getting down to it. I do want to make sure that I have time for any other questions that anyone has. So if there's something that you want to know about Mars 2020 or Mars itself or anything that comes to mind, toss your questions in the chat. We'll make sure that the slow mode is turned off so that if you come up with multiple questions, you don't have to wait to send them. But let's take a look here. As you're sending questions or coming up with questions, there is one that we get asked a lot. I was talking about how there are river deltas, rivers, lake beds, even oceans on Mars. But when you look at Mars, you don't see any water. There's no water really on Mars. There aren't lakes or oceans or rivers. So how exactly did that happen? Mars, a really long time ago, billions of years ago, looked a lot like Earth. Ooh, and we've got our nice fancy wet Mars here. So you can see the oceans and you can see these lakes. There was a lot of water there. And this is based on like various data that we've taken that will tell us whether or not, this was a lake bed or river or something. What happened was, a long time ago, Mars ended up losing a lot of its atmosphere. Planets often have a magnetic field. Earth has a magnetic field because of its core rotating, and that protects us from stuff from the sun, from the solar radiation, the solar wind, charged particles. Mars, it's much smaller, that core cooled off faster, and it no longer has as much of a magnetic field. So, Amanda, what have we got here?
Yeah, so you can see solar wind. So since Mars doesn't really have that magnetic field anymore, it can't protect itself as much. And so that solar wind kind of rips the air off of Mars, and Mars can't really protect itself the way that Earth can anymore. And it kind of lost its atmosphere that way.
Yeah. So upon losing its atmosphere, it ended up losing its water. It all evaporated, and there just wasn't any way to keep that water anymore. So that's why we don't have a nice ocean Mars. But that's also why we think there might have been life in the past, or that there might be some sort of microbial life still there, because there really were some great conditions to have living things the way that we understand it. So we've got a question here from Dylan, who wants to know, what am I personally most excited about, or both of us most personally excited about for the Mars 2020 mission? And are there any specific experiments or plans that you think are interesting? I'm really excited to see that helicopter fly. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to fly. It'll fly for about 3 minutes at a time, kind of hop around, take some pictures and test out how some powered flight might work on Mars. It's the first time we're going to do any sort of powered flight on Mars. Usually it's rockets or, falling from space. That's most of our Mars flight. But I also do think that 𝐀𝐜𝐭𝐢𝐯𝐢𝐭𝐢𝐞 instrument will be really interesting and really, really helpful to show how we can get some of the components that we need to survive on Mars and to make it home. What about you, Amanda?
I'm really excited that it's landing in a riverbed. I know that that's not unusual for some of the rovers that we send there, because we want to learn about the water on Mars, and we want to learn about the organic compounds and if there was life. And I guess I'm just always hoping for more, even if we've gone there several times and we haven't quite found evidence of life. It's always exciting to know that we're still looking, and we're still looking in great places like lake beds. Like lake beds is a place that has to have such nutrient rich soil, and it's going to give us great information. And I'm just really excited to see what comes out of it. It's always nice to learn more. Knowledge is power. Get as much of it as you can, So it's exciting, just in general.
It's really exciting. Going anywhere is always exciting. You're always going to learn something new. But going to a completely different area, you should learn some completely new information.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if we don't learn anything new, we still are going to gain valuable information. So yeah, science is pretty cool.
So we've got a question from Ari Sprite, who wants to know, how close to potential reality is the living situation in movies like The Martian? Will we have to try and create a new atmosphere, or all live in domes or things like that? So The Martian, the book and movie, is actually really close to a reality of like a crewed mission to Mars. Honestly, the most unbelievable thing in The Martian is that a windstorm caused any problems at all. Windstorms look really dramatic on Mars because there's a lot of dust that's kicked up, but it's very weak because of that thin atmosphere. But the living situation is really fairly accurate because we can't really survive in the Martian atmosphere. We would have to live in like a station. A dome is one of the easiest types of stations to put up. You'd want to make sure that you have breathable air. You want to make sure you have water, all the things that you have there. So the reality of setting something up, there's a lot of logistical nightmares to try to figure out on bringing all of those things there. But, we have astronauts who stayed on the moon for a really long time, astronauts who live in the International Space Station, and outside of the International Space Station is just pure space. There's nothing. So I think that it's pretty feasible once you're there, as long as you have all the supplies. It's really getting there and having enough supplies and having all that stuff that's one of the bigger issues. As far as creating a new atmosphere, so that's an idea called terraforming, to make a place more like Earth. And you'll see that a lot in science fiction, to kind of manipulate a planet to make it more Earth-like, to make the atmosphere more like ours, to add water or create water, to introduce plants and species native to Earth so that we can create a place that we can survive without having to make those domes or worry about how to create oxygen. And that's a huge endeavor, and I don't think we're going to get there anytime soon. And especially Mars does have trouble holding onto an atmosphere. So if we could even blink an atmosphere over there right now, it would still be kind of tough to keep it for a particularly long time. It would last long enough for us, but long term, not as much. There are also plans to 3D print houses from Martian soil, to create small domes like this. There are a lot of ideas and concepts on how people might survive and live on Mars, not just as astronauts, but permanently. Let's see.
Would you ever live on Mars, Rémy? Would you move to Mars?
Would I move to Mars? I would love to visit Mars, but there are so many pretty places on Earth that I would miss. So I would go to Mars for a pretty significant period of time. You could convince me to do that for sure. No lie, but I don't think I could live there terribly long. What about you, Amanda?
I think I'd have to agree. Once we set up some tourism there, I'll go check it out. But I think I'll live here.
Can't wait for Disney Mars.
Yes. All right. Cool.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions? If so, pop them in the chat real quick here. Let's see. Opinion on. So Dylan wants to know what our opinion is on commercial space flight, like SpaceX or ULA. Ooh, that's a big question. I think that it was kind of inevitable that commercial spaceflight was going to happen. One big concern that I have is about regulations and who's regulating that sort of thing. A lot of times when you go into commercial things, you have to start creating rules and laws on how companies can do things. So for example, with SpaceX putting out all of those, that satellite array, there's really no one there to say, hey, don't do that. It's kind of in the way of making observations. They can just do it because they're a company. No one's told them not to. So there's a lot of stuff that commercial spaceflight can get away with that maybe something like a government wouldn't be able to. But I think as long as we're thinking about the logistics, the long-term things, if we're talking about how everything's going to affect each other, it could work. What about you?
That's very insightful. I haven't really thought much about it. I was always just thought about how expensive it was and how I can't wait for it to be cheaper so I can go. But there are a lot more implications.
That's true too.
So
there are pros and cons to everything.
Absolutely.
But if SpaceX takes us to Mars, awesome. We just have to make sure that anytime we're doing something, we're thinking about regulations, because the same way that national parks exist and are considered something protected, space really is a resource that we all share and all should have access to. That's my personal belief and my opinion. So we should make sure that we're really preserving that as best we can. And I think that's just my largest thought there.
Absolutely. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Sorry for the hard question. No, it's a super interesting question, actually. That's an interesting one to talk about and debate. But we are looking like we're running low on time. We don't have any more questions if you've got something popping in really quick. But otherwise, I think we should call it. Thanks so much for joining us. We had a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this and you're just looking for more things to do with space and with Mars, check out the video description. We've got a few links to activities that you can do, you or with your kids or whoever else. That could be really fun. And don't forget our weekly social media challenge. Life can be found in some pretty unusual places. Can you find something living in an unexpected place? If so, take a picture and tag us in it. So we'd love to see it. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share it if you know someone else who might like to learn about Mars 2020. Be sure to subscribe to Fiske Planetarium and turn on notifications to get alerts about more videos like these. Next week, I'll be back with Jeremy, and we will be sharing some of the weirdest things about black holes. So be sure to come back and see that. So again, from all of us here at Fiske Planetarium, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great week.
Yep. See you guys next time.
Bye.